all boils down to. No big eyes, no little U's. The ground is level at the cross. Don't need all those letters, but I had to show the Lord that I meant business. I wanted to be the best I could be for Him while I live and move and have my being. So today we're going to fast. We're going to go kind of fast because He talks fast, so you should understand me as well. So we're going to go as quickly. We won't get through all the slides, but you're going to get the point because I'm going to use my medical and my pastoral ministry skills to bring this thing together to a wholeness. Jesus' goal was to make man whole.
That's it.
And that's what we're still trying to do in these last days before He comes again. So let's go to our first slide. We're talking about men and their health. I figured there would be some women here. And we're gonna talk about some general things. I want to get to very specific things. Like sometimes the guys like to talk about prostate health. But I'm like, you don't have to tell me about your prostate health, anything like that. We won't talk about it today. But I'm talking about things that can prevent prostate health, things that can make you live, things that can add years to your life, things that can make you feel good from day to day. Those are the things we're concerned with, okay? All right, let's go to this first. The leading causes of death by age group for black men in the United States. And of course, when I say men in the United States, I mean everybody, because this is the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Yes.
You've got their food here. You travel back over there. You've got kids over there back and forth. So whatever you taste over there and whatever you eat over here is going to have the same impact as American citizens. And you're going to suffer its consequences, okay? The diabetes is here, the high blood pressure here, and all those things are here. So let's look what black men are dying from. Heart disease is number 1, okay? Number 2 is cancer. Then unintentional injuries is number 3. That's like accidents and things like that. Number 4 is stroke. 5 is homicide. 6 is diabetes. 7 is chronic lower respiratory diseases. And that might include smoking, you know. It might include working with cement and things like that where you work on your job. And then you have kidney disease, which might be produced from high blood pressure, uncontrolled high blood pressure, uncontrolled diabetes. All those things can be linked to kidney disease. And septicemia, that's just toxic blood from infections. And finally, influenza and pneumonia. Okay, next slide. Now, categorically speaking, everybody has their own category. If you're 45 to 54 years old, this is your category for ranking for the diseases that affect you. Men who are age 45 to 54 generally die from heart disease, number 1. Number 2, cancer. Number 3, unintentional injuries. And number 4, diabetes. 5, stroke. There's many others, but I'm just using those. Okay, I guess I should stand right here while I point, because you got the camera there. Okay, I got that? Okay, good. I'll let you stand here. I want to be close to that. Those who are age 55 to 64, you're most likely to have cancer, number 1. Heart disease, number 2. Unintentional injuries, number 3. Stroke, number 4. 5, diabetes. If you're age 65 and over, you're likely to die from heart disease. Cancer is number 2. Stroke's number 3. And diabetes, number 4. Chronic lower respiratory disease, number 5. And if you're age 65 above, age 65 to 74, cancer is at the top and heart disease is second. But you notice your stroke just keeps creeping up from age 45 to 55 to 65, and it kind of levels out at 65 to 74. So we have to be careful of that, how we live. And that's what this lecture is all about. Next slide. So you have little kids. There are no little kids here, but I just want to point out that at a very young age, these kids actually have little bits of heart disease, younger than this. But heart disease tends to creep up as we get older, 15 to 20 to 25, and all the way up to 35. And you wonder, what's a 35-year-old having heart disease? Well, that's because of how we live. Okay, next slide. Now, essentially, the Bible has a lot to say about our health. The Lord said to Moses back in Exodus, shortly after they had made the exit out of Egypt, He said, "Now, if you will diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, and will do that which is right in His sight, and will give ear to His commandments and keep all His statutes," He says, "I will cause none of these diseases to come upon you that came upon the Egyptians. For I am the Lord that healeth thee." The Lord that healeth thee. Okay? It's not medicine. It's not drugs.
Amen.
It's not even the good therapy we have. The Lord heals.
Amen.
Because right doing goes along with healing. We'll go there. Next. Now, these are the ancient Egyptian diseases. Polio, still around. When I was born, still around. It was there, it was here. So was smallpox. We have vaccinations against that now. Tuberculosis, Helicobacter pylori, that's a little bug that gets in your gut. It lays down inside the lining of the gut and produces a very, very odorous type of smell. You think you have bad breath, but it's this little object that's laying in your stomach. I treated a little girl, 18 years old, when she was 16, in high school. She just came in so sad because her breath smelled so bad and her friends talked about her. And I said, I know what that is. I've tested hundreds of people for H. pylori. I can tell just by the room. You walk into the room, it smells like a bad breath. But it's not the breath. It's that little bug in the gut. Okay? And so I treated her. She came back. She was smiling. She was so happy. It's embarrassing to me. Spina bifida. Spina bifida is when you have an abnormality of your spine. It just doesn't develop right. Something's wrong with it. Generally, mostly it happens in, incestuous relationships. If you marry a close cousin or your brother or sister, there's a deformity here, and spina bifida is it. When I was in medical school, they said New Hampshire was the spina bifida capital of the world. All those wooded areas back in there, and people were actually doing things that they shouldn't be doing and having kids with this problem. And then there's club foot, cleft palate, where you have a lip, a hair lip, and your palate, the bone in your mouth is open inside the roof of your mouth. You have hydrocephalus, large-headed babies, and finally gum disease, gingivitis. Next slide. All those things hit the Egyptians. But when I looked at the book of Leviticus, that's the Bible Public Health Manual. I was amazed how God took care of Israel with hygienic procedures to help protect them from where they were. They were in the wilderness. So the priests were like the doctors at that time, which is a strong influence why I decided to do medicine with ministry. I said the priests were the ones who were diagnosing leprosy. They would come there and they would look at that white hair, and the priest would say, "You're unclean, you need to go outside the camp, over there, and stay out for a few days." And they would come back and he would declare them clean when it was time. But the priests and the laws, they removed spiritual illnesses, meaning guilt, through the sacrificial system with the rams and the lambs and all, from sins such as covetousness, lying, stealing, even murder. So you know how you see the spirituality of medicine is linked to the physical medicine, okay? You can't get away from it. There's no compartment. One affects the other. Next slide. So the consciousness, this is one of my favorite writings, the consciousness of right doing is one of the best medicines for diseased bodies and minds. You know what the opposite is when you feel guilty all the time and it'll ride you right down to the carpet when you feel guilty. Well, the sense of doing right is another healing aspect of health. Go ahead, next page. Now, back to the dietary, the public health manual. The dietary laws removed and restricted physical illness. The Lord says you eat this, not that. Touch this, don't touch that, okay? And then uncleanliness and its treatment. There were laws about uncleanliness and its treatment, unclean animals, childbirth, diseases, discharges, purification of the tabernacle, even burying your defecations in the woods, in the ground, so the whole camp wouldn't get sick. God was brilliant way of taking care of us. Who else is going to manage this wonderful creation that is fearfully and wonderfully made? Somebody had to be super smart to manage us. Okay. Next slide. And then there were prescriptions for practical holiness through observation of the rules on sexual behavior, family relations, land ownership, worship, sacrifice, and observance of holy days. No wonder they call it a theocracy. God was in charge. We followed his rules. These were his constitutions, his Bill of Rights, his amendments. Next slide. So the Lord commanded us to observe all these statutes, to fear the Lord our God for what? For our good always. That he might preserve us alive as it is this day. And that was back then, but he's still preserving us alive to this day. Okay, next slide. And look what Jesus did. Jesus went about all the cities and villages teaching in their synagogues, as the churches, and preaching the gospel of the kingdom and healing every sickness and every disease among the people. So he was preaching salvation and healing and doing all these wonderful things, a ministering physician. Next slide. What was his motivation for doing all that? Next slide. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. God was trying to give us everlasting life through salvation. And the next slide. And he also, not only that, wasn't just about pie in the sky by and by. He says, I come that they might have life and have it more abundantly. That word abundantly, I was looking up all the synonyms for abundantly. And my favorite synonym for abundantly is all over the place. Yeah, this is all over the place. He came that you may have life all over the place, no matter where you go. And beloved, he says, I wish above all things that you may prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. You know what another word, the modern word for beloved is? I looked that up too. Boo. Yeah, it really is. B-E-A-U. Boo. I looked it up. I was like, look at that. You like to know that. So God is telling you, boo. Boo. He's calling you boo. Yeah. I wish above all things that you would prosper and be in health, even as, not one higher than another, same thing. Because he wants to save you whole. Next slide. So holistic healing, H-O, is holistic healing, W-H-O, okay? And the very God of peace sanctify you with a H, with a W, holy. And I pray, God, your W-H, Holy Spirit, and soul and body be preserved blameless until the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. Isn't that nice? And then he says, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your body as a living sacrifice, H-O-L-Y, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. It's reasonable, very reasonable to give myself. Yeah? Next one. Now, National Geographic did a study years ago, around 2005. They were looking for longevity, the places in the world where people live to be 100 years old and more. They wanted to find out what's going on here. Next slide. So here's the oldest black American man. And he lived to be an oldest black American woman. He's dead now. He died December last year. I forget his last name. My notes are up there. But and then the lady, where was he? Yeah, and then she died. The guy was a World War II veteran, by the way. And she just lived to be 116 years old. He lived to be 112. She lived to be 116. Okay, she died in 2016. So these people live long. Now here's the oldest bodybuilder, Manoa Egg. He died age 104. But as you can tell, people don't look like that past 100. You seldom see somebody look to be 100 looking like that. Next slide. So National Geographic was looking for the places that live as longest. Next one. So they looked at the places. They went to about 5 different places and found 5 different areas in the world where people live to be 100 years old. And they could still reach down, pick up a dime, talk on the phone, remember stuff, could see without glasses, They saw this in 5 areas. They were Nicoya, Costa Rica, Ikara, Greece, Sardinia, Italy, Okinawa, Japan, and Loma Linda, California. Okay? That's the big 7 million population. Let's go. Next one. So what they found out, they had these things in common. What did these people have? They didn't know each other, but they had things in common. Number 1, they moved naturally throughout the day. They walked. Nobody's running a marathon. Nobody's on a track run. They walked. They did housework. They did gardening. And gardening has benefits. Next slide. They did a Dutch study, and they had 2 groups of people. They completed a stressful task. And then after the stressful task, they had one group to garden for 30 minutes and the other group to read for 30 minutes. And the group that did the gardening reported better moods than the reading group. They also had lower cortisol levels. What is that? Cortisol is a hormone your body secretes when you're stressed out. It makes high blood pressure and it'll make you diabetic. Because when high blood pressure, when you're stressed out, the cortisol goes up and the salt in your body gets reabsorbed. Your body starts retaining salt. Well, you're going to get thirsty, you drink water, so now your blood pressure is going to go up with salt and water. And with diabetes, when your cortisol goes up, the insulin goes down and the sugar goes up. So now you got a lot of sugar hanging around in your blood that can't go anywhere. So this is what cortisol does. But gardening reduced that. And also, it increased the self-esteem of people because it's just a wonderful positive change in knowing that you nurtured a plant from a seed to a fruit-bearing thing. I mean, you get a fruit-bearing tree in your yard and say, I did that, and you feel great. Next slide. The other benefits is that gardening reduces stroke risk, makes your heart healthy. The Stockholm study showed that regular gardening cut stroke and heart attack risk up to 30% for those over 60. Good time to start gardening. Okay? Expose your limbs to the sun for 10 minutes a day and you'll get enough vitamin D to reduce your risk for heart disease, osteoporosis, and various cancers. And then try 30 minutes of gardening every day. In the morning, if you can't, split it to 15 minutes in the morning, 15 in the evening. The evidence is clear. Too much sitting is now the new smoking. Yes. Sitting is now the new smoking. You've got to break it up. You get the same ill effects from sitting too long as you do from smoking. All right, next slide. Hand strength and dexterity. Make your hands strong. I shook up hands with a few people here. Your hands were strong. Must be gardeners. Okay, go on to the next one. Go to the next one. And then the brain health and Alzheimer's. A long-term study followed. They looked at 3,000 older adults for 16 years, and they're tracking them for incidents, tracking them for dementia and lifestyle factors. And they found out that daily gardening was the single business risk reducer for dementia, reducing the incidence of dementia by as much as 36%, and in some cases 47%. So there's something about being in nature, talking with God. Maybe that's why God, in a garden instead of a city like New York or Dubai. You know, those are beautiful places, but he can't hear you. You can't hear him in you. You know you can't hear Jesus in New York like you want to. No, Las Vegas, right? No, you can't hear that. So, then the immune regulation. There's friendly soil. The friendly soil bacteria called Mycobacterium vaccae. It's common in garden dirt. And it's absorbed when you inhale it or you get a little dirt on your food. And it has been found to alleviate the symptoms of psoriasis, allergies, and asthma. This is science. These are science. These ain't Christian Bible believing scientists. They just experiment, and God showed out. Okay. So, and also it helps alleviate depression. Actually, there are microbes in the dirt. Two things about gardening. When you put your hand in the dirt, it drains off the static electricity. It's like when the Empire State Building in New York gets hit by lightning, it doesn't explode because it's grounded. So the electricity dissipates. When you put your hands in the dirt, it also drains off that static electricity off of you, which is no good for your body, and you feel better. But also there are microbes in the soil, like this one, that actually go through your fingernails into your bloodstream. They track all the way up to your brain. They go to your brain and make you feel a sense of no depression. No depression. You feel good. Never met a depressed gardener. Never met one. So now they're using horticultural therapy for a lot of people in institutions to help them with their, to help them with their emotions. So you can build your therapeutic garden with a combination of food-producing, scented, and flowering plants to nourish all the senses. You can add a comfortable seat in your garden so you can bask in the sun while you rest from your labors. You can let your body get a little hot and sweaty because, speaking of hot and sweaty, excuse me. Ezekiel 44:18 says, the priests shall wear nothing that maketh them to sweat. You can look it up. I already did. Thank you. Thank you, Pastor. Okay. And while you're out there, like I said, elevated body temperatures are cause us to have a feeling of well-being. And so don't forget to drink plenty of water and know your limits. Next. Next slide. Oh, thank you. All right. So when we surround ourselves with growing plants, which we have a lot here, it's been kind of dry, but it's coming back, we're getting more than a nice view. The sensory experiences stirs mysterious regenerative processes deep in our bodies and our minds. And remember, they did two groups of patients recovering from surgery. One group could look out the window, all they could see was a brick wall. The other group looked out the window and they could see green trees. And guess who got better? People who saw the green. God is out there. Next slide. So the second ingredient, the second thing that the Blue Zones had in common, these 100-year-old centenarians all over the world had in common, was purpose. Knowing why you wake up in the morning makes you healthier, happier, and adds up to 7 years of extra life expectancy. Knowing why you wake up. It's not enough just to wake up. Get it with a purpose. You have a purpose. Next one. And then stress. Downshift. These people know how to downshift. When it gets too stressful, they shuck it off. They get off. Stress is part of life. But these people have stress-relieving rituals built into their daily routines. The Adventists pray. The Greeks and the Acarians in Greek, they take a nap. The Sardinians in Italy, they do happy hour. That's that wine thing. Next slide. We'll talk about that. This came out recently. Jack Daniels. Anybody know what Jack Daniels is? You don't have to raise your hand. But Jack Daniels finally owns up to his past. It was a slave who taught him how to make that whiskey.
Wow.
Yeah, it's out now. You know, he used to tell us. He's talked about some man named Dan Call. He said he didn't learn this from Dan Call, but from a man named Maurice Green, one of Call's slaves. Yeah, you know. Next slide. So happy hour. Now, a study came out just last year called the Global Burden of Diseases Study. It analyzed the levels of alcohol use and its health effects in 195 countries from 1990 to 2016. 195 countries they studied alcohol use. And The Lancet is a very, very powerful medical magazine, journal. What they discovered was, the conclusion was this: no amount of alcohol is good for your overall health. No amount of alcohol is good for your overall health. I can go on for days. It's a whole other issue, but I can tell you. Next page, next one, next. So, the Bible says it better. Who has woe? Who has sorrow? Who has contentions? Who has babbling? Who has wounds without cause? Who has redness of eyes? They that tarry long at the wine. They that go to seek mixed wine. Look not thou upon the wine when it is red, when it giveth his color in the cup, when it moves itself right, at the last it bites like a serpent and stings like an adder and make you do all kind of crazy things you regret later. And don't want to be blamed for. And don't want to be blamed for. You know what I'm saying? Okay. And like he says, this is the wise man Solomon. He's the guy who did everything under the sun. Yes. Vanity of vanities, he said, is the preacher. Did everything. He says, wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. That's right. God says, if any man lack wisdom, let him ask God, who gives the men liberally and upbraideth not. That's what he said. Didn't he say that? Okay, you Bible scholars, okay? And then what they found is the 80% rule when they eat. The centenarians stop eating when their stomachs are 80% full, and they eat their smallest meal in the early evening. So if you want to lose weight, you stop eating at 2 o'clock. Want to maintain it? Go to 4, okay? But you will gain after that. Next slide. Plants land. This is the other thing. These centenarians have a bend toward eating plants. They tend to go towards eating more plants. And beans are the cornerstone of most of their diets. Vegetables, fruit, and whole grains round out the rest of the diet, and meat is eaten in small amounts. When I was growing up, they used to tease us, so y'all eat beans, y'all must be poor. We eat steaks and hot dogs. Only found out that beans are king, man. Okay. Beans can prevent colon cancer. If you eat more than 5 servings of beans a week, it prevents colon cancer. We found that out, and I'll show you later where we found it out. Plant nutrition. Oh, get back up one? Okay, next one. John Legend started eating salads for breakfast. You can Google that. Because he found that he had a heart disease in his family. It's a genetic heart disease in his family from his folks. So he got wind of these doctors who talk like me about health, and he said, now he's eating a salad, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, before he eats everything. Okay? There's some vegan athletes out there who are ultra marathon runners, and Olympic gold medalist Carl Lewis, and boxers, and mixed martial arts, and the list goes on. Next slide. Who is that? Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was here recently after the hurricane. Bill Clinton was so slim, somebody said he had a 6-pack. He wasn't always like that. Bill Clinton had 2 heart attacks. He actually had 1. They put a stent in, the stent didn't work, put a second one in there, repaired it. But that guy caught on to plants. Now, he can afford the best steaks money can buy, right? Yes. Yeah. You can never taste the steaks that he can buy, because you ain't got that kind of money, okay? So he switched over, went plant-based. The journalists were following him. Mr. Clinton, is it true you're a vegetarian? He says, no, I'm not a vegetarian. I eat plants, organic plants, green plants. Next slide. You know who that is? Samuel Jackson. Samuel Jackson had a clot behind his leg. DVT, deep venous thromboembolism. He was scared for his life. Movie star, big career, all those books. He didn't want anybody to handle him. So he called these other doctors. That's his name, the same doctor he was talking to. And he told him. And on a YouTube video, Samuel Jackson talks vegan. He tells you what he did. He says, I was eating a handful of green vegetables 5 times a day. He said, I didn't like it at first, but I got used to it. He says, kept on eating, and I had more energy. I started losing weight, so I'm feeling better. Then he got a call from Lionsgate Films. Say, Samuel, we're doing a movie called Tarzan. We want you to be in it. But you gotta gain 20 pounds. You look too good. He looked better than Star. So he gained the 20 pounds, did the movie, came back, got in the program, continued. At the end of the program, this is like an after picture, before and after pictures like that. He's looking good and everything. He got a call from Germany. This is Capital One credit card, people. What's in your wallet? So when you see him on the commercial, that's him, looking good, glowing, radiant, just getting out of a plant-based nutrition program. That's what it does for you. Next slide. There's John Legend. Next slide. And of course, NBA legend John Sally, he's got the whole business. He's doing it and he's selling it. He's got his whole business. Next slide. So the other thing they have as the centenarians is a sense of belonging. You got to belong to someone, okay? You need somebody to hug you. Hugs are precious. People want to hug. Some people are cold, but you need a hug. You need human touch. Your mother hugged you as a child, unless something's wrong. But generally, your mother hugged you. Your mother used to taste the food before she put it in your mouth to see if it's poisonous, toxinous. So you have some bonds and some ties to your mother. So people still need hugs. You lose a loved one, and go back one time. So it can add 4 to 14 years to your life expectancy if you belong to someone who cares. Okay, next slide. So at Harvard School of Public Health, my alumni, I graduated the school, researchers found that people who attended weekly religious services or practiced daily prayer or meditation in their youth reported greater life satisfaction and positivity in their 20s and were less likely to subsequently have depressive symptoms, smoking, using illicit drugs, or have a sexually transmitted infection than people raised with less spiritual habits. That's the American Journal of Epidemiology. It's scientists coming out. Scientists are bowing at the cross. Science is bowing at the cross. This is real stuff. Next slide. Number 7, they put their loved ones first. You can take your family. They have close and strong family connections with spouses, parents, grandparents, and grandchildren. And this is common with these centenarians. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. And then the right tribe. That means the friends. You know, your good friends. The world's longest lived people have close friends and strong social networks. Now, what can be better than sitting around with someone who can walk with you back down memory's lane? That's better than Sudoku and crossword puzzles. Okay? You with me? Okay. Next slide. So there's some evidence from Adventist health studies. They ain't here for nothing. They didn't do it themselves. We're talking about principles, y'all. We're not talking about people. We're talking about God's principles. Anybody can have it. Anybody can do it. And people are doing it. Okay? Next slide. The Adventist advantage. The Adventists were pioneers in health. They had principles. They embraced. God has blessed this church with a healing ministry to make man whole. Next slide. This is what they do. There are many ways of practicing the healing art, but there is only one way that heaven approves. God's remedies are the simple agencies of nature that will not tax or debilitate the system through their powerful properties, like drugs. Pure air and water, cleanliness, a proper diet, purity of life, and a firm trust in God are remedies for the want or the lack of which thousands are dying, yet these remedies are going out of date because their skillful use requires work that the people do not appreciate. Not they don't want it, they don't appreciate it. Fresh air, exercise, pure water, and clean, sweet premises are within the reach of all, with but little expense, but drugs are expensive, both in the outlay of means, or you're going to pay, and the effect produced upon the system, in your body and in your pocketbook. That's what drugs will make you pay. Next slide. The original diet, God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree, and the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for me. That's King James Version. I'm talking about the same Bible, y'all. I ain't going nowhere. I'm talking about KJV. That's what I use. Next. So the life expectancy. They did a study in 1976 to 88. And they looked at regular Californians, life expectancy, Seventh-day Adventist men, and then Seventh-day Adventist men who were vegetarian. And look who lived the longest. The persons, the regular California people, men, basically died at 73 years. 73 years old, 0.9. The regular Seventh-day Adventist people, they had the faith, but meaning not the diet, they lived to be 81. But the ones who went on the plant-based diet lived to be 83.3. And as you can see with the women, regular California women, 79 years, Adventist women, 83, and then Adventist women who are vegetarian, more restricted diet, 85. Next slide. So, the Adventists, in essence, were the first to discover fruits and vegetables reduce cancer risk, because they don't really have that. Next slide. People who ate less than 3 servings of fruit a week had more cancer, more lung cancer. Those who ate just less than one, like a half a banana, just had almost a third of that. And those who ate more than 1 serving of fruit had even less than that. Okay, next slide. They were first to discover beans reduce colon cancer risk. Oh, next slide, go ahead. Those who ate beans and legumes less than once a week had a relative high risk of cancer. Those who ate 1 to 2 servings a week, just about a little less. But those who ate more than 2 servings a week had half the risk of colon cancer than other people. Okay, that's important stuff, folks. Okay, prostate cancer, same thing. Men who had more than 2 servings of beans a week had half the risk of prostate cancer versus those who ate less than 1 because they're eating the red meat. Okay. Meat increases risk of colon cancer. We found that out. Go ahead. Meat and colon cancer. Those who never eat meat, risk of colon cancer way down here. Those who had more than 1 serving of meat per week, cancer almost twice as much. Okay. Next slide. Red meat and colon cancer, same thing. When you ate more than 1 serving a week, up there, you never ate it, it's down here. Makes a difference. White meat, you think, well, I'll switch to white meat be better. But those who never ate white meat were way down here, but those who ate more than 1 serving of that white chicken meat or whatever, or turkey, is way up there. It's almost twice as much. So don't be deceived. And the first to discover tomatoes reduce prostate cancer risk. Okay? Tomatoes have something called lycopene. Lycopene just fights cancer. So if you had more than 4 servings of tomatoes a week, mainly in the form of tomato paste, you would have half the amount of cancer as someone who never ate tomatoes in the white. And soy milk, those who eat soy milk more than 1 serving a day, the prostate cancer relative risk was way down here versus those who never ate soy milk, but they had cancer risk way up there, almost 3 times as much. And then we found that meat increases the risk of heart disease in men, among many other things. Next slide. Beef and fatal coronary heart disease. Those men who never ate meat, way down here, very low risk of heart disease. And those who ate more than 3 servings a week, way up here, almost twice as much. And then nuts reduce risk for heart disease as well. You see that? For the men who ate more than 4 servings a week of nuts, on half as much as those who never ate nuts. All right. Fish and coronary heart disease. People say, well, I'll eat fish. Okay, I won't eat the meat. I'll eat the fish. Well, you're switching from a big hammer to a smaller hammer. Why beat yourself at all? Okay? So those who ate fish more than 1 time a week had almost twice as much as those who never ate fish in terms of coronary heart disease. There's a reason for that. And then whole wheat bread we found also reduces heart disease. Go up to that. Next one. Those who ate whole bread have the risk of those who never ate it. They're eating the white bread and all the other stuff. Okay, go on. First to discover that 5 or more glasses of water a day lowers heart disease. Next slide. Recent studies have shown that the consumption of a single glass of water with a meal, because a lot of people like to eat and drink, significantly increases the blood sugar level compared to the same meal eaten without a drink. So you said, well, should I eat or should I drink? Should I drink with my meal? Now, here's the reason. The plasma sugar response to meals consumed without fluids were 40 to 60% lower than those consumed with liquids. So the water just gives you a great big bolus of sugar water when you eat and drink at the same time. All right. And this was true in healthy subjects as well as insulin, non-insulin dependent diabetics. Okay, next slide. Exercise in all deaths. Those who had a high amount of exercise had a lower relative risk for death as versus those who had no exercise, a low exercise program. So you want to add an extra 10 years. Okay, the extra 10 years of life, they demonstrated that 5 simple habits advocates have promoted over 100 years have extended their life by as much as 10 years in both men and women. Regular exercise, eating plant-based diet, eating small amounts of nuts regularly, and maintaining normal body weight and not smoking. These are the things I want you to walk away with today. Okay? We will, hopefully we'll talk another time about some other things. We can go into detail about a lot of different things. But today, you need to know that because of lack of time. I'm going to end here and give an opportunity to ask some questions. And you ask questions about anything you want to ask. This or anything else.
Yes. We have 5 minutes for anyone ask questions.
Yeah.
Anyone has a question? Okay, good. We have a question in the back.
Sorry, you talk about nuts. My assumption, if you eat peanuts, it stays in your stomach for 21 days. Is that true?
Do peanuts stay in your gut for 21 days? Mm-hmm. I don't think that's true for everybody, no.
Okay,
I would say that, I'll give you some answer information. If a person has diverticulosis, where you have outpouchings on your intestines, it could be that peanuts could stay there for 21 days because they would get the crevices and they would stay there and would eventually cause problems. That's why they tell some people not to eat them. But if you grind everything down to a powder, you can eat the nuts with diverticulosis. Different people have different metabolic levels. Some people metabolize faster than others due to the thyroid gland as well. But I do know that meat tends to stay in your gut for like 3 days because it's hard to digest.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else has a question?
Good evening. Could you talk about the relationship between testosterone and prostate cancer?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because black men tend to have more testosterone than any other group, any other race. Okay, so then, therefore, we're more prone to get prostate cancer because of that. If you notice a lot of times nowadays they're selling testosterone on TV, like just get it, just buy it. Don't need a prescription. And when people buy that, they're basically exposing themselves to extra testosterone, which will produce more cancer. When a person has prostate cancer, one of the problems they try to do is try to lower the testosterone. They do that with drugs like Lupron and other things like that to bring those levels down.
because if the testosterone continues to stimulate those cancer cells, it just grows more rapidly. But you know, your body, actually, testosterone generally goes down as we get older, you know, and all the other life's aspects that have to do with that. But that's normal. It's normal. It's only when you start having cancer problems that it becomes a bigger issue. Okay. Anybody else?
Okay, good. All right, we'll take it there. That's it. Amen. Let's put our hands together and thank him. Amen.